Here is a Valentine card diamond art kit, which I couldn't resist. This is from Recollections, and I picked it up at Michael's, and they were, I think, 40% off. I've never seen Recollections diamond art. I was in there looking for little kits to send to my granddaughter for Valentine's Day. And I saw 2 card kits. I should have taken a picture of the other one. The other one was like a piece of chocolate cake, I think. And I don't remember what it said, I'm sweet on you or something like that. I love, of course, making cards that are diamond art. I'm sure you've figured that out by now. I'm hoping that there's enough of the red that I will just cover up. I'll put a little glue on here that says Be Mine and just make it a full red heart. But you get 4 cards and 4 envelopes, which at Recollections makes pretty decent envelopes, I think. And these are, I would say these are pretty nice cards. I mean, they feel like good cardstock. They are blank inside, which again, I just wish they would put something on the insides of these cards. I'll have to see if I can find a stamp to just put Happy Valentine's Day on the inside of it or something. But let's take a look real quick at the kit that comes with it, which this is nice again that they're giving folks this little spongy thing, which on that other one, I don't remember which one it was that I opened before that had the little spongy thing on there, which is nice. And then the wax comes in a cute little container, which is nice as well. You can find lots of refills that are round, especially on Amazon. So you could always refill it and use that little container, the little plastic screw-on container. Get your bags, extra bags, and then not very many colors, of course, browns and pinks and reds. I'm still going to make that gnome too. I have that Valentine gnome to do for this month. I'm not going to try to do very many Valentine's things because, you know, it's the middle of the month. But there's your diamonds. And they do look pretty good. I don't know, they probably don't look much better than you get with a cheap kit off of Amazon. But anyway, you usually get enough of these extra colors. I'm not going to do all of them on a video, but just enough to... Oh, see, that peel's really nice too. They definitely got the right side down. Very sticky. And my diamond pen went somewhere, so I'm actually going to use this diamond pen for now. Peel off the top here. Get that in there. Oop, that didn't sound good. Got that sticky stuff on here on my table from that last video and that whatever it was on that candle wick kit. And I try to clean off my table with alcohol wipes pretty frequently. Alright, so let's take a look here. They stick really well. The wax seems really nice too. One way that you can also tell how sticky it is you hear that click when I take the the diamond art pin off of the diamond, and it sticks really nice to the cardstock. And get all of my reds on. I was going to tell you that this morning I went down the basement, and I think I mentioned before I've been avoiding the basement because of the black widow spider. Every day now for weeks. Well, every time I went down there for weeks, I've looked for that flipping spider. I haven't seen her at all. And so today, that's pretty crooked. Yeah, you need to either rescore that. But today I went downstairs to do some laundry, and there she was. Back there by the pipes, by the, the washer. And I don't know, I went into trauma brain. I don't know if you ever heard of trauma brain. Some people have like a flight or fight response. I think that's kind of what's normal. And my therapist always used to talk about trauma brain. So for people who have trauma brain, they don't have a fight or flight response. They have a freeze or flight response. Those are the two responses, which explains my life pretty clearly over the years. I just didn't know what they called it or had words for it. But so I freeze. And I go into this brain fog kind of thing of freezing. Everything freezes. My thoughts freeze, and I literally have to pull myself out of it to determine what I want to do. Now, I told you before that when I go to the basement, I go armed with a fly swatter, a bottle of Windex with vinegar, and usually my long picker-upper tool. But I couldn't find my picker-upper tool today. It's hiding. And so I went down with a fly swatter and my Windex, my bottle of Windex. Now, when I saw her, like I said, I froze. And I'm thinking, I'm not really thinking, actually. And I finally bring myself back to where I need to be. And I know that I have that bottle. And I want to squirt her, but I want to make sure that I hit her good with it. And then I'm thinking about the last time that I almost asphyxiated myself with the Clorox and everything else that I was trying to throw on her, which obviously didn't kill her. So I ran upstairs and I got a mask. I tore open a mask and put it on and went back downstairs so that at least I didn't breathe all of that Windex in. And I sprayed the living heck out of her. I'm telling you, sprayed her. Now, she kind of curled her legs and fell. And I thought, oh, did I get her? Because a lot of times spiders will curl up, right? So I thought, okay, what am I going to do? Well, I brought my laundry upstairs, and then I waited a few minutes, and I went back downstairs. She was literally crawling back up the wall. So I'm thinking, okay, so I probably emptied a quarter of the Windex vinegar bottle on this. She's big. She's a big spider. And it didn't faze her, man. She just kept crawling. And I'm thinking, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I thought, okay, I'm going to try to hit her with the fly swatter. Okay, so I hit what I thought I hit her with the fly swatter, and she fell down again, right? And I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is why they call Black Widow in Marvel, because she's really hard to kill. She's got skills. So, see all these reds that I have left? So I have plenty of reds that when I'm all done, I'm going to put glue and fill this up with red. That was my biggest concern right at the moment. So I'm going to put those reds back in here, I think. It's a pretty red, too. But anyway, so I waited to see what was going to happen. I'll be damned. When I go back downstairs, she's crawling back up the wall again. Literally. So I hit her with a fly swatter. I've emptied a crap ton of vinegar Windex on her, and this spider is still alive. So now I'm like, I have nothing to, I guess I can't reach her. She's back on the pipe area, back behind the washing machine. You know, so what did I do next? Okay, so what did I do next? I thought, okay, I went on a hunt in the basement, and a fast hunt to see if I could find something that would be long enough to reach her, to squish her, you know? So I'm looking around. I can't find anything down in the basement that I thought would squish her and be big enough in case I missed her, because, you know, my judgment is kind of off a little bit. I have awareness issues with spatial awareness issues. So I find this old vitamin. It's a big long tube that's got little sections in it that I use to put my gummies in if I'm traveling, my gummy vitamins or whatever, because gummy vitamins, I just seem to do the better with chewables than I do with pills with my body. But so I grabbed that thinking if I could reach back there far enough and push it on her, maybe I could get her this time. So I hit her with that plastic vitamin bottom of it, which is pretty flat, and she fell again. Now, the cement in my basement that's unfinished back there, the washer and dryer, is like rough cement. So a little tiny spider, you would never get it. With something even flat, probably it would probably go into the little crevice in the dimpled cement and you'd probably miss it. But she's big enough, spider, that I think I could have maybe got her again. I have no idea. So at that point, I have wasted 30 minutes of my trying to get out the door Uber time, and so finally I just gave up and decided I was going to do other things this morning. So I, like I said, don't have any idea whether I've killed her. Don't know. There's as good a chance of me going downstairs this afternoon to take another look and see if I can see her and try again. Or if I don't see her again for weeks, which is what happened this last time. I'm thinking I need to get one of those long arm shower scrubbers that are rough on the outside, or that are rough like a scrubber. And they're big. So the head of it is like huge, and it's on a really long stick. If I would have had one of those, I probably could have got her. But I didn't have one of those. So I am going to have to go to Walmart today and get one of those big long arm shower scrubbers and leave it downstairs so that I don't have brain fog freeze when I see her, and I can just pick it up and reach back there and hopefully kill her. Anyway, I think that's just crazy. So there is such little pink and such little red that there is a lot left of each. So that's good to know. So last night about 7 o'clock, which is dark at that time here, and I was sitting there watching, I think I was watching Dexter Original Sin that I had recorded, which I love that show, by the way. I absolutely cannot wait for Dexter Resurrection to come out. But there was all of a sudden this huge bang on the door. I mean loud, like a big crashing, like somebody knocking on the door, but instead of knocking on the door, they were banging on the door. And it kind of freaked me out, and the dogs, of course, went wild, and maybe that's why there wasn't a second knock. I'm not sure. But I called my husband on the phone because he's sitting upstairs playing video games. Well, I guess not video games. Computer games, which he does like 24/7 when he's not sleeping. And asked him to come down because somebody was banging on the door. And I didn't feel comfortable opening it or, to look outside when it was dark out. Of course, I have porch light. And I quickly put the dogs in the kennels because you literally can't open the door with the dogs the way they are, especially Lucy, my bigger dog. She just will not settle. There's just nothing I can do to get her to be quiet. And so they were continuing to bark as he, of course, opened the door. And I said, is there somebody out there? And he said, yeah. I mean, this day and age, you just don't really get very many people knocking on doors anymore. I mean, I don't even get Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on my door anymore. I mean, they just don't. It's almost like maybe since COVID or even before that, people just don't knock on people's doors. Anyway, I said, is somebody there? And he said, yes. And he was trying to talk to the person, and he kept motioning to me that he couldn't hear what was being said because the dogs were barking. And I'm like, yeah, well, I can't get them to be quiet. So I said, you're going to have to step out onto the porch, which, I shouldn't have directed him to do that, but he did. He stepped out onto the porch and was talking to the person, and then pretty soon I kind of went to the door because I wanted this other individual to know that there was another person in the house, and not to think that, if he had any bad intentions, that he would not, try to just think there was one person home. And so I saw him, and he was, I think, a homeless man who was pushing his grocery cart full. I mean, this cart was full of stuff and overflowing. And, that's their home, really. And on this street lately, we've been getting a lot in the alley and just, up and down the sidewalks. But it had been snowing for like 2 days. And so the snow was cold and it was wet. And here he had this big grocery cart. Well, my husband came back into the house, and I said, what did he want? And he said he wanted quarters to go to the laundromat so that he could dry his clothes because he was soaked and he was cold. And so he was knocking on doors asking for quarters so that he could dry his clothes. And I said, well, how much did you give him? And he said, I gave him what I had in my pocket, which was like $1.50 or something like that in quarters. And I said, well, shouldn't we give him a little bit more? Because that's not going to get him very far if he wants to dry his clothes. And I said, was he like really cold? And he said, well, he was shivering. And my heart just went out to him. And I said, why don't we go ahead and I got some quarters over here in this cup. And he said, no, he's fine. And then he went back upstairs to play his video games. Anyway, I mean, if you know my husband, that's my husband. So I just went to the door, and the dogs were still in the kennels, and I opened the door and I hollered at him and asked him, to get his attention. And he looked at me, and I said, if you can wait a minute, I think I have some more quarters that I can give you. And so I came back in the house and I dug out $3, I think $3, yeah, maybe $3 worth of quarters out of that cup that I had just been throwing change in for years, And I gave him those quarters. And he thanked me, and I just came in and I just started crying. I felt so bad for him. To be so desperate that you're going to start banging on doors asking for quarters, and he could go down and buy a bottle of beer or a can of beer maybe with $4.50 in quarters, but I don't know, chances are he maybe needed it really to dry his clothes because it had been snowing. I don't know. I just felt terrible for him. Downtown Spokane is just loaded with homeless people. Some writer once told me that they had heard that the last statistic was 12,000 homeless in Spokane. And I know that I had read, and other people had told me too, that people, other places like Seattle, has been busing homeless to Spokane to, I guess, maybe try to distribute the homeless maybe better so that they get more resources. I don't know, but it's really upsetting. I Uber a lot downtown, and there are just so many down there. And I feel so bad for the dogs. They inevitably have dogs. Some of them look better than the homeless people, and others don't, and it just breaks my heart. I don't know if there's an answer. I just think that as the United States of America has enough resources that nobody in the United States should have to live like that if they didn't want to. I don't know. And people will say, yeah, some of it's choice, and maybe some of it is choice. I can't imagine some little kid saying that when they grew up they wanted to be a homeless bum. Living on the streets day to day. I just can't imagine it. I just wish that there was something better for these people, for them to go for. If the drug addiction, I don't know if that would stick if they tried to get him off of drugs. I mean, but for sure, some of it could be mental health. I don't know. It's just so sad. And I know that it's not just here. Like I said, I've given a lot of writers, given a lot of people rides, and some are from like the bigger cities in California, and they're just, especially in those places, they're just thick. There's just a lot of homeless individuals. And the day before yesterday, I gave a young woman a ride with 2 kids. It had been raining. I mean, just for several days too, and it was just wet and icky and cold and just really soggy out. And this was before the snow started falling. I think we had a day break in there that didn't have any moisture. But a young woman with 2 kids, a baby in a stroller and a young daughter. And I went to pick her up, and of course, it's raining, so it's not much fun being outside in the rain. And she was just trying to get to the DSHS office for food stamps to feed her kids. And she had, thankfully, she had a booster seat for the older kid, and she had a car seat for the baby, which most don't. And, it's an issue. But she had that. She had enough awareness that she knew that she needed that. And this woman, I got out of the car to help her get her kids in the car, because number one, I thought it would be faster with all of the rain, and I knew that she probably needed help. And she just kept apologizing. I'm sorry. Thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry. Thank you, ma'am. I mean, and you notice that there are a lot of people from the South, especially, will just ma'am you to death. I mean, they just respectful. So between that and her constantly apologizing to me, anyway, she said she was just really grateful that I helped her, because she said Uber drivers don't help usually to get her kids into the car. And I said, well, you got a lot here and it's raining and it's cold, and let's just get you in. I don't want to be outside, and if I don't help, then it's going to take that much longer. So I got her into the car, and the little girl looked at me and she said, I'm sick. We're sick. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's just another layer here, because I don't want to get sick. And so I said, well, thank you, for telling me, and I put my mask on. But of course they wouldn't put any masks on. But it is what it is. And then the mother sat in the front seat, and I hate it when people sit in the front seat with me. I just hate it. But sometimes it's just, you have to. There's too many people in the car. So she got in the front seat, and again, she was thanking me and apologizing and thanking me and apologizing. And, ended up the story is she is a domestic violence survivor. And so she was in a women's shelter. But it explained it all. I mean, the constant apologizing and the thanking me. I mean, I felt terrible for this woman. And so this isn't the end of the story. So I take her to the destination, which is the address that she gave me for DSHS, and it wasn't the right address. Now, this has happened before with Uber riders. I mean, it just happens. They have the wrong address, either to pick them up or to drop them off. It's just the way it is. And if it's close, I don't mind, doing it. But if it's far enough away, I always tell them that they need to add a stop to get to the next destination, because it's not my fault that they don't put the right address in. Well, here's this woman with the wrong address, not knowing what to do. And I kind of said, well, you can always just add a stop and I can get you to the next place. Well, she looked at it to do that, and it was going to be $20 to add another stop. And she's kind of, really pausing, and she doesn't know what to do. And she's like, I can walk. We can walk. And then she'd say something like, but I have the car seats. And she just kept getting the same address every time she would Google it. And finally I Googled it and gave her a different address. And I think that was the correct address, is the one that I had, not the one that she had. And then I said, well, it might be cheaper if we just end the ride and you ask for another ride, and then it'll be probably much cheaper because it's not that far away. So we did that. And yeah, it was going to be like $7 or something like that to get her to the DSH office to get the food stamps. But once again, she is like, I think I can probably walk. Because my feeling was she didn't have the money. She didn't have any more money to get where she needed to go. But my thought was, well, she's got to try to get home, with this stroller and these two kids that are hacking, away in my back seat of my car. And of course, like I said, I got my mask on to try to give me some kind of protection, because she said everybody at the shelter was sick. And if she had known that, she'd have done a little bit more protection to keep her kids from getting so sick. But regardless, so I'm like, I couldn't leave her. I mean, I couldn't leave her. I couldn't leave her at the other place, which was not her real destination on where she needed to go. And I just couldn't do it. So I said, well, it's not that far. I'll just let Google get us there, and I will just don't worry about it. And so for free, of course, I drove her down to the correct DSHS office so that she could get her food stamps so she could feed her kids. I'm just like, oh my gosh. There's between the man at the door last night and this woman the other day, I don't know if I should complain about anything. in my life. Because, you know, some people just have it so much worse. And I know it's perspective, and, you know, everybody, or subjective, and everybody has their own problems, and to each person's problems, that's their problems, and that's their struggle. But I don't know. I just think sometimes we need to think that we could be so much worse off. And, you know, I had picked up another gal almost immediately after that. And this gal, I mean, I was telling her about this other woman with the kids, and before you knew it, both of us were crying from it. I mean, it was just a heart-wrenching story. And then come to find out, the gal I picked up had her own struggles because she was hit by a Walmart truck. A semi-truck hit her, and she had quite a bit of injury from it. But I'm just saying, I think after that, I think I did a couple more rides, and I just said, to heck with it, I'm not doing any more rides today because I don't think I can emotionally take it. I just think we need to be grateful for what we have, I guess. Anyway, this is going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, and then I'll turn it back on when it's done so that you can see what it looks like. I finished it, and I finished the other 3, and I wanted you to see how cute it is. It worked up really well. The diamond stuck very well. My only complaint would be is that the little circles for each of the diamonds on where they're supposed to be positioned on the dog are too small, I guess I want to say. So, in other words, they were a little hard to fit in, you know, and I was working basically from the outside in most of the time. I mean, once you get your outline in, that's probably the most important. But you will notice as you're sticking them in there that the little circles that have the code on it, whether it's A, B, or C, or D, are too small compared to the diamonds. But it works out. I mean, you get them all in there, and I don't think you can really see inside where maybe there's a code that didn't get quite covered because of the positioning. But I would definitely recommend these. I would wonder what other Recollections diamond art they might have. But I know that from now on, when I go into Michael's, I'm going to definitely keep my eye out for some of these seasonal or holiday cards. I know they have some St. Patrick's Day stuff out already, but they don't have any diamond art cards, which was a little disappointing because I think I would have had fun putting those together. I wanted to add that these envelopes have red on the inside, very pretty. I knew they felt like really nice envelopes, but I didn't open them up and look at them until I was, you know, finished and ready to, basically I was just going to store it like this, and so I opened up the envelope and noticed that the pretty red is there. So I wanted to point that out. That's another really plus, I think, for these particular cards. Wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. Thanks for watching. Take care, stay safe, and be kind.